Welcome to another episode of Distory. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and tonight we are continuing on our saga of Snow White's scary adventures, or her just adventures, or how about Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So now we have to, we felt it wouldn't be right, it wouldn't do justice if we didn't cover all of the Snow White physical ride attractions. So to do that, this evening we have to go all the way back to the announcement of new Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Whew. And with me to do that deep dive is the well-researched, amazing audiobook dictator extraordinaire, Kate the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how we doing this evening?
I think we prefer narrator over dictator.
I don't know.
What do you... Dictator?
Well, listen, there's only one person in charge when I'm listening to that thing, and it ain't me.
Fair. That's fair. Okay.
I was thinking of like diction in my head, but that's not what I meant to say.
I know.
That's not the thing. Narrator. Yeah. That's what normal people say, you know?
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. So we just finished with 1994 Snow White's Scary Adventures is getting razed and torn down. This 90s period.
Horrible time in my life. I was distraught. I don't like it. This is like Mr. Toad all over again.
Yeah. So this 90s to early 2000s time in Fantasyland was kind of a sad time. If you think about kind of like Tomorrowland is now, especially in Disneyland, you know, it's just tired. It needs a little refresh. And there are a lot of things that are broken or closed or those kinds of things.
I feel very similar to this whole entire area, to be honest. Tired, broken, could use a refresh. You know, I could use all these
facelift.
Things. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, please.
So that's what's kind of going on in Fantasyland at this point in history in Walt Disney World and the Magic Kingdom. So everything was aging. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea closed in 1994, became Pooh's playful spot for a little while till 2004. The Skyway buckets closed down, so that they weren't going overhead anymore in 1999. And so in the 2000s, then at the D23 Expo in 2009, they announced that they were going to do a new Fantasyland, which was a $430,000 expansion of Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom. But it's not exactly what we have now. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Kirk, what we had first that they proposed?
Sure. I'm going to actually go back a little bit further because I don't want to spend too much time on this, but... Okay. I got obsessed with just staring at the way everything looked back in 2008.
Yeah, let's see how tired it was. Let's go for it.
Okay, so I have a map, and so let's dive into said map. So here is the Magic Kingdom a la 2008. And in Fantasyland, we still have our classics, our perennial classics. So we have Small World, Peter Pan, Mickey's PhilharMagic. You also have the Dream Along with Mickey musical stage show, which they're pronouncing in the front, which I think is kind of fun. They don't really announce those. They just kind of show up now. Then you have Fairy Tale Garden, Story Time with Belle, which is kind of like randomly thrown in Fantasyland. You still have Snow White's Scary Adventures. You had Dumbo's Flying Elephants, which is right behind the carousel. So that's kind of a weird thing to even here. You know what? Where's my pointer go? So you had carousel and then Dumbo, and Dumbo was only one, so a single attraction, not the double like we have now today. And then back here, that's where Kate was talking about. For 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you get Pooh's playful spot. And then we also had the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh had replaced Mr. Toad's at this point. And you had Ariel's Grotto, which was just a meet and greet with the Little Mermaid. But I think Pooh's is so crazy. You got to look at this thing. Did you see pictures of this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. So here's a fun fact, because this tree still exists. So right now, for our listeners, we are looking at a fenced-off area that is basically essentially a play area with a small little splash pad attached to it. There's various stumps that have tunnels and slides. It actually looks quite lame. You can crawl around through some honey pots, and it's all mulched up, like that rubber mulch.
Yeah.
Honestly, this whole area is not cute. It's not great. It looks terrible. It's very poor theming. Lots of hot Florida sun to be awful. But the one thing that is important and is significant is the tree. So you get the Mr. Sanders tree house with Piglet at the top. And in here is where we, look at little Piglet. Although he's got mold on his face. Look at it. He's seen better days. Look at that. They need to pressure wash his head.
He needs a little facelift too. He needs some spa day.
Yeah. So once we get into the house of Mr. Sanders, remember this is over the top of 2,000 leagues under the sea where that was located. And this is where that original little call out to that old attraction was, on the wooden beam inside the house over the main entrance. And you're thinking
a little Nautilus, right?
Yeah, a little Nautilus is up there. But what's cool is that this tree gets relocated once this area does go under construction. So this gets uprooted and they transplant the tree in front of the attraction, which before it just looked like a kind of like a carnival style front like this. So that was the original OG of the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
And it was the best use of that tree they could have come up with. It's great.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they could uproot it and reuse it. I guess it's just bolted down and that's how it was able. But like, I just think of like all that fiberglass and all that material just like collapsing. But no issues. They reused it, which I think is pretty cool. So I don't know. I just was obsessed with the fact of looking at old Winnie the Pooh and the area that was there before, which was awful. So yeah, in 2009, we finally get the new Fantasyland. Dun da da da. Where is my new Fantasyland pictures? I have so many of them too.
Yeah, me too.
It's exciting because they have so much concept art. And the concept art changes quite a bit. This was during D23 in 2009. So here is what Fantasyland is proposed to look like. And we get some things that exist now today in the Magic Kingdom. Things like Enchanted Tales with Belle, Be Our Guest Restaurant, Gaston's Tavern, Chateau Gifts, I think, something like that. The Under the Sea Journey of the Little Mermaid, which is such a mouthful for an attraction. And then they show all the way in the back some new areas. We'll get to that in a second. And then over here is a reimagined Mickey's Toontown Fair is going to turn into Storybook Circus. But there are some elements that don't exist that were planned originally. And one of those would be the Cinderella Chateau right here. The Sleeping Beauty Cottage right here, and then all the way in the back is going to be Pixie Hollow. So there was
wait a minute.
What?
Pixie Hollow is next to Dumbo.
Where
it was always next to Storybook
Circus.
Well,
in this concept art, they jammed it all the way back here. That's what this tree
interesting.
is. It looks like the Tree of Life. Like, you're correct looking at blueprints, but based on this concept art, they jam it all the way behind Ariel. That's
interesting.
The only reason why I know that is because this tree is very distinct in the concept art. It reminds me so much of the Tree of Life. It's crazy, even though it's very, very tiny for Pixie Hollow. But it I don't know, reminisces or makes me feel like that. So there it is. All the way in the back there. So yeah, very, very different from what we actually get in terms of the center, which is going to be the landscaping space, Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, which ends up turning into our Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And then this turns into like storybook treats and then the big top meet and greet area. But I think we need to talk about what these proposed locations were going to be.
Yeah, we mentioned this in the previous episode, how we were lamenting, I wanted a Cinderella ride, like how come we didn't get a Cinderella attraction near Cinderella Castle? Well, we were going to get a Cinderella attraction, but it wasn't a ride. It wasn't a dark ride. There was going to be this large...
Sorry.
This large castle, essentially, concept where you could meet the princesses. So you could meet Cinderella in her chateau, and they have all kinds of concept art for this, where you would actually watch her dress transform, which would have been pretty neat, not gonna lie.
Wow. I don't know if I need to see her dress, but...
So, but it really was just kind of a meet and greet kind of situation, right? There's no like ride system going on in here. It was just this meet and greet. And look at her in this one. She's something. She doesn't look like herself.
She looks more like the fairy godmother in that one.
Mm-hmm. She's very matronly in that particular one. Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yeah. And then, of course, Sleeping Beauty would have helped her celebrate her 16th birthday by making her a card. So that would have been kind of interactive in that way.
My God. Could you imagine? Welcome to New Fantasyland, where you can be Hallmark and make your favorite princess, who's always forever turning 16, a birthday card.
Yeah,
and literally, it was like a crafting area.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is so funny because, we talked about how disappointed we were with the meet and greet that we did end up getting, in Fantasyland. But this would have been like that on like a larger scale, taking up a giant footprint.
Dude, when I was doing research for this, I told Kate, I was like, listen, this is a thing that we're going to have to spend some time on, even though I know it's a detractor. But I don't think a lot of people know this story. And we're probably never going to go to New Fantasyland for any other purpose.
No.
So we might as well do it now.
Right.
But the fairies were going to be there.
Yeah, I think Pixie Hollow, we got a version of Pixie Hollow in Disneyland that's kind of a small one. That's a walkthrough where you kind of shrink down to the size of a fairy and then you get to meet them around every corner.
So happy with their cards. Look, this kid's like, look, happy birthday to you from the princess I never knew. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
That poor princess having to like read cards over and over again, pretend each one is like amazing.
Gosh, I love this card. You really should go into business. The parents who are sitting on a couch made of wood are just like, oh man, this is great. I like this kid. Reminds me of like the Magic School Bus kid who's always like complaining about things, or the kid from like Polar Express.
Yeah.
Hey, that's actually not a greeting card. That's more of a.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Pixie Hollow would have been really interesting, and it would have been capitalizing on that IP at that time, which was extremely popular in that era. So it makes sense that they would maybe want to shove, some Pixie Hollow in there somewhere. I didn't see all of this concept art. You found a lot of it.
Oh, dude, this is straight up from the announcement. So, like, look at this guy who's like, all right, kid, grab this giant spoon. You grab this fork. Plus this gargoyle was a lot scarier. Actually, there was tons of gargoyles that were a lot
That's
scarier.
Enchanted Tales with Belle, right?
Yeah, this is Enchanted Tales with Belle, yeah. So they actually have a really fun one. The largest excitement piece where everybody was like clapping and cheering for this entire experience is when they do the announcement for... Although, look at this. Hang on. In this concept art for Be Our Guest, there's...
Lumiere,
thank you. I almost said LeFou. Lumiere sitting on like a tray table going around like greeting guests, which how cool would have that been? That would have been amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't exist. Although they did do in Chefs de France, when Ratatouille came out, they actually had a little animatronic rat that they would bring around to the tables, which was really fun. And it was controlled by your server at the time. Like it had like one of these little fancy stainless steel like opening tops, and the lid had the controller in it. It was really cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that was fun. But what everybody freaked out for was for Gaston. Everyone was so excited for Gaston's Tavern. And I actually think the concept art for the fountain came out relatively close. It's not exact, but their positioning is definitely similar. And there are lots of water spouts in the final feature. And where everybody really got excited was they use antlers in all of our decorating.
It's pretty close to what you get, really.
Yeah, except for nobody uses their teeth like this. So I don't know what this is. First of all, I don't know what is happening on. And fun fact, when this originally opened, they didn't serve turkey legs. They served giant pork shanks. It was the only time that they sold pork shanks, and it was for just a couple of years, and then they stopped doing that. And then this kid is really stoked to be in Gaston's chair. I mean, I'd be excited too. He doesn't even have shoes. He's so excited. He's just got his toesies out, living the life.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a time. It was a time.
Well, okay, so now you're headed over to Ariel, which I have to say, there's something that they announced that was going to happen with Ariel that never actually happened.
Oh no, what happened?
I don't know if you ran into that, but they announced that they were going to have something called Scuttle's Scavenger Hunt. And
No, what is Scuttle's Scavenger Hunt?
Okay, so you know how the queue has like all the tiny little things in it? Well,
Oh yeah.
when you went through it, apparently you were supposed to have like a map or like a map of like things to check off or find, and then people would look for them. So this was actually like pretty far down the line for the concept. It says, while approaching Ariel's grotto to meet the Little Mermaid, join Scuttle for this fun interactive game. Search the seaside entranceway to find the seagull's treasures from the human world, like a dinglehopper or a bulbous snarfblat. Scuttle will be on hand to help out with the hunt. So that's why they have the Scuttle animatronic in there, was because he was supposed to kind of like help out with the scavenger hunt.
Okay.
And then they canceled the scavenger hunt for whatever reason, and they just left Scuttle in.
Now, did you know that Scuttle had a location in Fantasyland?
No.
Okay. It was a dining location. Hang on, I'm just trying to find a picture of it. It was called Scuttle's Landing. And it was like a little snack stand. So they had like ice cream and everything like that. But yeah, it was called Scuttle's Landing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was right over next to Ariel's grotto. So right by her meet and greet, they had like a little ice cream stand. So, yeah.
I like the little seashells that kind of look like ice cream.
They do. They look like ice cream swirls on the top, right? It'd
fun.
be really fun if they actually put none of the cones. They were all like, what do you call it? If it was like seashells, like seashell cones, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
The also, I don't know if you noticed on the S is one of those like when Ursula turns people into those worm things or whatever, you know, when she steals their souls. Isn't that kind of fun?
That's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun little font there.
That's neat. I love that.
Typography. Yep.
To reel this back into these concepts here, obviously we didn't get these princesses meeting and greeting in these giant castles. So in early 2011, Tom Staggs took over the project and made a lot of changes because there was a lot of people who were complaining at this point that there were way too many princesses and not enough things for the boys or for, you know, like people who are like not huge princess fans. And Tom Staggs also had boys himself, so he wanted to make it more fun for all ages and all people versus just kind of like focusing on princess everything. So that's how we ended up kind of nixing the princess projects from the center there and substituting in with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Thank gosh, somebody talked sense into them, because if they would have went ahead with that.
Ooh. Yeah. So we did have some closures that happened because of all this. February 2011, we lost Mickey's Toontown Fair, closed permanently, which is a bummer. And then in May of 2011, Snow White Scary Adventures closed down. And then there was also something, though, called a Seven Dwarfs Mine Shop that was there. I don't know if you remember this, Kirk, but it had elements inside. It was just a gift shop, but they had like
weird.
A vault. Yeah, they had a vault. It was
they have the keys next to the vault too.
Yeah, they had
even for a gift shop.
They had the keys. They had the little dustpan they used to like sweep up the diamonds in the mine. They had this candle that has a little reflector plate on the back. The whole thing was themed. So if you're wondering where it was, it's kind of like in that place right where you kind of eat ice cream from Friar Nooks or whatever from this. What is that ice cream place called there? I'm forgetting.
It'd have been like over here or over here.
Well, the building still exists. So, you know, like right next to Friar Nooks.
You know what? Then it's the Winnie the Pooh gift shop when you exit.
No, it's further over. So it's like the thing that's across from the carousel where you can like, there's tables there where you can eat ice cream. It's not a gift shop now.
Okay.
It's like a place where you can sit and eat. But It was a gift shop. And it also had a little like dwarf's mine cart in it.
Oh,
just
stop.
Kind of cute.
That's a cool, wow, man. Bringing us to the ore carts already.
Mm-hmm. So really
that's actually what they did. They just took that little gift shop piece, they threw wheels on it and shoved you down a hill.
Pretty much. So I thought that was interesting that that used to be there and now isn't anymore. Now it's just kind of a seating area. At this point now you're seeing, I have kind of a comparison of all three. So at 2011, the princesses are gone and you see the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train has taken in there. But we have another change to 2012 as well. They made a lot of changes in Storybook Circus. We no longer have the Pixie Hollow concept that disappeared. And we see more like what we see today over there. By 2014, they added 26 acres to Fantasyland. So this expanded Magic Kingdom size from 107 to 133 acres. And the original Fantasyland area, they renamed kind of Castle Courtyard. So, and then they have the area that was the Storybook Circus area, which had the Barnstormer, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, Casey Jr.'s Splash and Stoke Station, and Pete's Silly Sideshow. So the Splash and Stoke Station and Pete's Silly Sideshow, that's kind of like ish where Pixie Hollow was supposed to be, to my understanding, for some of this. That was a space that they had designated for meet and greets and stuff, and they just changed it to the Pete's Silly Sideshow meet and greets instead. And then we get to the Enchanted Forest, which is the area that all this good stuff is in, like Ariel's Grotto, Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid. This is where the scavenger hunt would have been. Rapunzel's Tower and Restrooms, Be Our Guest Restaurant, Gaston's Bonjour Village Gifts, and Princess Fairy Tale Hall, which is where Scary Adventures used to be. So this is now kind of the new way that they've divided it. And there's kind of a cool thing you can kind of see when you step into that Enchanted Forest area. Kirk, do you want to mention what that is?
No, I don't know what you're trying to set me up for. Help me out here.
Well, like
lead
the
me in a little
changes
more
and whatnot, right? Like when you step beyond the castle, those walls that they put up for the castle.
Oh, the little like half walls?
Yeah, that like designates the castle courtyard.
Right.
And you step out into I guess.
Well, I think like the extension of this gives us a boundary lines knowing that we're heading into the woods, right? So like it's a cool, also very nice area to take photos from. Lots of little cool spots. Honestly, let's everybody dump Princess Fairy Tale Hall and just do the meet and greets for the princesses over there like they do during the holiday parties.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And let's put the Cinderella dark ride in there. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So before we head to concepts and really dig into Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, because that's where we're headed next, I just want to do something that both Kirk and I are really, really bad at. So bear with us for a moment.
Podcasting? Are we going to podcast right now?
Apparently, we're also bad at that. No, we're really, really bad about talking about the things that we do outside of Distory. Like both of us. Neither of us are great at it. We stink. So I thought we would just take a quick moment to maybe just let you guys know about a couple of things that we're currently working on or are doing outside of Distory. Kirk, do you want to go first and let us know what you got?
Sure. This part has been sponsored by Walrus Carp. He's paid a lot of money for this spot, so, make it worth his while. No, all of our spooky season holiday clothing, but just in general, we do theme park clothes that don't stink. So I'm wearing our Shrieks and Eats, which is our pizza fry shirt. And we've been making croc charms for quite some time, but we've added these croc charm bracelets. So if you like ride vehicles like the Mad Tea Party, the People Mover, or maybe you want some Walrus Carp monsters, we have those available as well at our website, walruscarp.com. Kate, what do you have to share?
Like show and tell. So just for our Distory fans, I did design a t-shirt myself just for fun. I'm a graphic designer in another life. So I made a shirt that is all about our Big Thunder Mountain series. So it has all the little kind of inside jokes and things that we learned from Big Thunder, like sticking Tommies, apple dumplings, cowboy coffee, red handkerchiefs, no ram tricks. But Pat Burke's crane has all those little things on it, plus Big Thunder with a train that has 1979 on it. So if you've been enjoying that series at Distory, we've got a little t-shirt for you that's at disneycicerone.com. And I just finished a massive project narrating and editing my audiobook for my third book that I've written, which is called What the Mansion Eyes See, which is based in Walt Disney World. And it is a romantic suspense that stars Disney history live streamers. So that is available on at Amazon.com or on Audible if you listen there. So,
as somebody who is listening to Kate's audiobook, it is spicy, kids.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Let's just say this. Kate, I can make a shirt for you for Distory, and it'll be called Sticking Tommies for Distory Mommies. You know what I'm saying?
It's not that bad. It still qualifies as like sweet romance. So just in case anybody's scared off by that, but it does have a fair amount
Don't
of
be
history
scared.
in it,
It's
too.
awesome. Kate will walk you through it.
So back to the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, let's talk about the concepts for this one. So this is going to be a family-style coaster that takes you through the gem mines of the Seven Dwarfs. It's kind of how they described it in Imagineering. And this is the first time this story has ever been told from the dwarfs' point of view. So usually when we're doing Snow White Scary Adventures, it's like Snow White's point of view, or, we see a lot of the witch and whatnot, but we never really, the dwarfs were never a central focus. So this attraction was going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, what did they even do anyway, right? You know what I'm saying? Anybody else feeling me? They took 7 of them, you know what I'm saying?
So it was interesting. They said this was the last attraction that they added to the new expansion, and it was the biggest one, the most exciting one, I think, from everything that they added. But they did have a challenge as they were working on it. How do they work on a site and not impact guest experience in a negative way? So that was one of their big challenges of this project. But do you want to walk us through some of the concept art there, Kirk, that you got?
Sure. So we have this really beautiful watercolor, which, a lot of times they use painting for concept arts. That's been continuous through time. You had mentioned something about that a while ago, and I can't remember the specific fact of why they want it. Maybe it's because of storytelling versus everything being digital. But anyway, we get the dwarf's cottage, and then in the background, yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to set you up if you didn't have anything to bolster it.
No, what I've always heard from Imagineers is they always start with drawing, sketching something and that's rooted in the history of, the people who were the original Imagineers were mostly animators first and artists. They weren't, Imagineers as we know them today. So it's the tradition in Imagineering that their projects usually start with drawing of some sort or art. And so that's why we get all this beautiful concept art that's all really is, not usually digitally done. It's usually hand drawn, hand painted for that reason.
Yeah, I love that. So in this concept art, we see, although you know what, we don't have a stream, any kind of water effect in this, but there's a little tiny bridge that's going over towards the Seven Dwarfs cottage with that thatched roof. And we see in the distance a mine shaft, and we also see 2 different trains that are filled with ore carts that can rock back and forth, which this is a brand new ride system that they announced in, 2011 at this point? Mm-hmm. So everybody's really excited for the fact that, actually, you know what? Nobody was really excited. I watched the announcement. It was the most boring announcement. Everyone didn't care. It was just very weird to me because the backlash online, especially in the message boards back in the day, were all viscerally against all of the princesses. But in this press meeting, nobody was excited. Or maybe it was just press that was there and it wasn't a lot of theme park goers. So there wasn't reactions that would be more celebratory. But the other thing that's here is I love, and I wish we would have gotten this giant rock boulder that sits atop it, an ore cart filled with gems, and below it is a pickaxe, because I think that tells us more of the story than what we actually finalize and get with just a wooden piece of signage that's hanging above a wooden frame structure. I think this really tells you not only what you're going to get into and what you're going to see, but it sets you up for the experience, I think, better than that. Oh my God, dude. Don't even show that. That's sacrilege to show literally a wood sign with 1 gem in it. Somebody,
I have it from another angle. It's more artistic.
That, you know what? It looks a lot better like that. Now, can you do
one?
Yeah, if you could do me a favor and take that one and throw it in the trash, that'll be the perfect view for it. So we need to get this. That was a good picture, though. No joke.
Yeah, thank you.
Picture. Yeah. So
yeah. I found a couple of pictures of the model that they used from it, which I think has an interesting connection back to Snow White's scary adventures. And it's interesting to me. Do you remember how we talked about the witch who was like pushing over the timbers to try to get you?
Yep.
And it looks like the entrance to the mine in this particular model has timbers that look like they're kind of falling over to the side.
It's going down. I'm yelling timber. You better move.
Sure. So
you don't know Kesha?
No, I don't know that one.
Are you what? What? Dude, we're like the same age. You know Kesha though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that song.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
It's a great song. I'm going to send it to you immediately after this is done.
Right. Do you have some more concept art you want to show before?
Dude, Mr. Worldwide is in it. Pitbull. How do you not? Okay. No, I do have the same
Send
model.
It to me after this. I
will. Well, I still can't figure this out. I don't know where this model was displayed. Do you know where this was located? Because it looked like this was in view of guests, not just in some random hall.
D23 or something, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I would assume so too, but
they put it.
I couldn't find the location for it. But what is interesting about this, remember, is that when we go over Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that first lift hill, you can see Prince Eric's castle for Ariel. So it's like we're not hiding sight lines here. All of these different castles, because we're getting 2 additional ones. You get Beast Castle, you get Prince Eric's castle.
Are we really calling Beast Castle like an actual castle? Because it's like...
How do you not call it a castle? It's not a real...
It's like this big.
Yeah, their forced perspective on that one failed a little bit. It's funny because if you look at Tokyo Disney Seas, their forced perspective on their dark ride, it's dramatic improvement from what you get at Be Our Guest is like that moment in Monty Python where they're like, Camelot, Camelot, Camelot. And then the one guy to the side's like, it's just a model. Like that. I feel like that's how the Imagineers are all the ones saying, Beast Castle, and guests are like, it's just a model. So it really is it's quite terrible. But
that's true.
And then the other thing we get is the prototype for this new ride system swaying mine car, which they did put 2D flats of Dopey, Doc, and Bashful in the back.
Okay, so I have so much information about these ride vehicles.
Let's talk about it.
Want to go there?
Let's please.
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned the first ever roller coaster with swinging cars in them. They did reference mine cars from the actual movie. So this is the one that they used to reference these from the movie. And you can see there's a donkey? No, a deer. I think it's a deer pulling that mine cart.
This is called Kate Guesses Cartoon Animals Wrong. It's a good segment that we're adding into Distory. But yes, the donkey deer is pulling that ore cart.
His head wasn't in the picture. I couldn't see it. All of these mine cars are 5 of them actually hitched together, but I have some really interesting early concept art from them as they change. So you can see they look a little bit different than how they ended up.
It's the extra metallic pieces in the front.
Yeah.
And then even I know this is supposed to sway, but if you notice that the ore carts are always rounded, but in your concept art, it's more of a box on the sides, and the front and back have rounded metal scoops on them. The other thing that's really cool, I'm going to bring this up, there's a swinging lantern and a pickaxe.
Yeah.
Also, those, could you imagine if they used that style lap bar? Oh, yeah. My word, dude. A T-bar. First of all, I can't even fit in these ride vehicles to begin with. But if they put a T-bar, forget it. I'm not getting in that thing ever.
Yeah. Well, and so they started to change them a little bit. This is similar to the one that was just there, but they removed the pickaxe from the side, and they have it more of this like wood look on the side. And then
it's like a log.
Yeah, and now they have this, but they added an animal to the front instead, holding the lantern, which is an interesting idea.
Wow, you have a lot of concept art for just the ride vehicles. This is very cool.
Yeah. Then here is a little bit closer to what we actually got. There is a lantern in the front, and the seats have more of this like curve to them with a curl at the top. And then here's one. It shows more of the wood grain for it. I know I found like the gold mine of pictures. Sorry, can't talk. And then here's some more just kind of development pieces for the mine carts. And then, sorry, wow, the 3D kind of modeling for it was showing the people inside them.
Man, wouldn't it have been great if we would have gotten those little speckles and stars that are on the side too? That would have been gorgeous. And a giant paintbrush. I hope like as soon as you get on the ride, there's in the prototype photo or concept like 3D modeling, it just had a giant paintbrush in the front.
Because it was the transition that they were using on that video, and I took a screen grab. So, but speaking of paint, I do want to talk about the paint on these because I found a really fantastic reference about it. And so this is from a lot of information from Ben Van Busikon, who's the field art director of character paint for this attraction. And so the ride vehicles were designed to give the guests this fully immersive experience. So they studied the mine cars from the movie. They looked at the grain of the wood, the shape of the bolts, the lantern on the front. This is what this guy looks like, just in case you need to see him. And
is he the lead singer of Prodigy? Is he a fire starter, a twisted fire starter?
Here's him actually painting the mine cars. So all of these mine cars were actually hand painted, and not just with like one layer of paint. They used layers and layers upon layers of paint to make them look like they were varying ages old per each mine cart. So some of them, cool. They would make them look 20 years old, and some of them they would make them look like 40 years old. They even paid attention to the mine cars that are, maybe this one was in the front, the lead car, and they got the most soot or dust, and so they were darker that way. So the variation of the mine cars then allows for authenticity of the story and makes it more immersive that way.
Did you ever notice that when you're on the ride? Maybe it's because it's so dimly lit when you're in the load station.
Yeah.
But I never once noticed a shading differentiation. But now it makes me want to watch the mine cars go by on the edges and outskirts.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Like, I didn't like the fact that they have such attention to detail. And I love this part because they actually thought about, what are the ones that maybe, they bump a little bit when they're pouring something in, or they get more jostled. So they wore out those sections more than the others, because those are the ones that if the minecart was in use, that's where it would get worn down, which is such a cool little detail.
That's a crazy attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. So this is the quote from, they said they can take several days, several layers of paint to complete, sometimes up to a week for each car. And Mary MacIken, who's a scenic artist for Walt Disney Imagineering, said, sometimes you have to work forwards and backwards, make it look new, and then make it look old. In this way, we know where the hit spots are in the car, where it banged into, and where they must have dumped something over it. So just really fascinating to watch them work on these cars and see like what would have been worn. And it's not just like guests wearing it out. It's actually painted to look that way.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I always love this part too, how they make the bolts look rusty by painting this like orange paint around them, and then they wipe it off. Yeah,
it's like almost like, yeah. Oh, that's so neat.
Isn't that cool? So lots of interesting things that they did to make these cars look. I just love that they hand painted each one. Like,
do me a favor.
Imagineering.
Everyone who's listening, make sure next time when you ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, you go, nice rusty bolts. I know somebody hand painted and swiped them. And they'll be like, man, you really know your stuff.
All right. So, Kirk, do you want to talk a little bit about construction then?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, right? Because Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is the last thing to get completed, right? So, but they still had to block off quite a bit of area after they make the announcement in 2011. But New Fantasyland actually opens up later than that. But Seven Dwarfs isn't until like 2014. But you can still experience Be Our Guest, Enchanted Tales with Belle, and Ariel prior to that. But it's cool to see them pouring the footers. You get the steel I-beams here if you're watching in the center parts for building out the construction bones for the load station, the queue areas, as well as the indoor section, which I think is really a differentiating factor of this roller coaster, as it has a nice, well-themed dark ride portion of the experience, and not something that's like very short And I think it's a nice storytelling piece, and again showcasing the dwarfs, which don't get as much love.
Yeah, I just ran into something from that that book by Aerodynamics, and they said that the original Space Mountain that they were developing was going to have 4 tracks in it, and they would go both inside and outside. And so like part of me is like, did they really kind of lean into that here, where they have this like really like an indoor section and this outdoor section and have them both, so
yeah, I mean, look at this right here. You can see the track being laid, and then the inside. It's so weird to me because we see it as a mountain, but knowing what it looks like prefab with all of the steel, and then seeing concrete being like slab being placed by cranes, it's so crazy because you never think that this thing is going to turn into something. And this takes years, right? I think this is one thing that we have to mention is how long a project like this takes, because when we just dealt with D23 announcements for both cars and villains of the Magic Kingdom coming to Magic Kingdom, it's going to be the largest expansion since New Fantasyland to the Magic Kingdom. And everyone kind of always wants things to happen now. And I know Tron took way too many years, 7+ years, right? But this project alone took, 5 years since announcement? So, and New Fantasyland took 4 years. So, I mean, it's, to me, everything that is good takes time. What's unique about this area, though, is that it was not utilized. Like, this was new construction area, right? So if you think about it, there wasn't anything there besides Ariel's Grotto and that sad little Pooh's thoughtful place, right? Or playful place. There really wasn't anything here. It was just all undeveloped land. So if you look over in this patch over here, you get an understanding of what it looked like. It was just straight trees that they cleared. And so guests were around these walls just as long as they were around the Epcot walls, but it wasn't impeding traffic flow. It wasn't impeding existing attractions. This was all new. Now, I think the same kind of principles will be in place, and the only thing that we'll see moving forward for Cars Land is going to be the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island. But everything else, like, it's not going to change your experience.
The tracks themselves were made by Vekoma, which is based in Holland. We've mentioned them before. They also made the track for Big Thunder Mountain for Tokyo Disneyland and Disneyland Paris. So they've done several contracts for Disney before. It is a smooth roller coaster with a maximum speed of 34 miles per hour. So not terribly fast, but for a family coaster, it makes sense. And they had 2,000 feet worth of track as well. And I found some interesting pictures of like when they were building it, the track kind of just laying down,
chilling,
which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I like also how, when we were looking at Big Thunder, the same exact process of laying lath down and then hitting it with concrete, all the yellow is our meshing that's going to give our mountain texture, right? So all of the steel beams that we're seeing here, which also this is kind of a fun fact, it's actually so lame, this is incredibly lame, is that our construction walls change. I don't know if you noticed that, but our construction walls turn into more Seven Dwarf Mine Train themed, because it gets the same similar style like woodwork and the sconces that are up there. So all the lighting fixtures kind of remind you more of what Seven Dwarfs is going to look like.
There's a little mural of the dwarves looking into that mine, kind of like in Snow White Scary Adventures when they have the mine and you can see the diamonds kind of twinkling there, and it says "Take a peek with Dopey." But there was actually a hidden Mickey on this sign, which I thought was really fun. It was on the mushroom. There was a little hidden Mickey there for people to find.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was fun. Oh, so I have this really unique picture. This one totally blew my mind. So this is inside after they've kind of put up some of the structure of it. But do you see all the little like red dots?
Oh yeah, what are they?
I think those are the diamonds, the location of the diamonds in the mine.
Are they pictures of diamonds? They look like clip art pictures of diamonds, right? Like rubies and emeralds and stuff.
They're all red, like red, pink.
Which obviously they aren't in the final.
No, there's 6 different colors in the final. But So this must be before they were going to do the rock work, they laid down all of these dots all over the place to show where the diamonds are going to be.
That's so
cool. I think is really interesting. And I have it too in the model. I found one of the mine, which we'll have to bring back when we actually go inside the mine. But here's in the model. Looks like they use push pins to simulate diamonds.
Okay.
So the location of the diamonds seem to be planned very, very early on.
Well, you got to remember they're not just diamond. They're specifically electrical. So because they're electric, boogie woogie woogie, you need to lay down cables. So.
Yeah, I have someone listen in my chat saying they had to place the lights, so it would make sense that they would need to. But look at this. I think they use painter's tape for these ones to
there you go.
Tell you where the diamonds are going to be.
Dude, that looks exactly like the ore cart that's going to blast us in Scary Adventures.
Right?
It looks like the dead end. She's still pushing it towards us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll never get away.
I feel like they still integrated small little nods to Snow White Scary Adventures, and obviously some very obvious parts of Snow White Scary Adventures, which we'll see later on, not now.
Like actual pieces of the attraction.
Yeah. The other thing I have is just kind of these 3D model, ride through.
Oh, that's so fun.
Isn't that cool?
That is
so
cool.
This one, in the Dwarfs Mine, it has the actual dwarves kind of carved into the side, holding up the main timber, or what is it called? The main, what is that called?
Like support beams?
The support beam, for the mine, which I think is really interesting because we didn't really get that. But I have a whole bunch of these. We'll have to pull this back out when we go through the thing. But they have a lot of the 3D modeling riding through. This one's kind of interesting. I don't know where this is at. It's like an early one, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this one has the Dwarf's Cottage, which I think is really fun. So lots of interesting ways that they make the ride so they can ride the ride before the ride's actually created to see how it would feel. So, well, I think then that is where we will roll to a stop for this particular one. And then we will head on into the actual attraction next week with the queue. Actually, not next week. We are going to take a week off just because I'm going to be doing some travel.
No!
I'm going to see you, so you can't be that sad. Unless you're sad.
That's why I'm crying, is I have to hang out with you in real life. We're internet friends, Kate. This is IRL, Kate? Friends. IRL? We're going to meet IRL?
All right. Well, let's wrap this up then. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Distory. We hope you enjoyed kind of seeing the transformation of New Fantasyland and how we got to this attraction from what we had. Kirk, do you have any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
If I was a dwarf, I would be Catfisher, because I have been catfishing Kate this entire time. She has no idea what I look like. I'm a horrible monster.
What?
No, I don't know, dude. I just keep thinking about, meeting in real life is very funny.
It is. I still remember the first time you and I met in real life.
Yeah, you and I rode Remy, and we waited in line for 3 hours to ride.
It was a long time.
Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, but it had just opened. It was brand spanking new.
But it was fun.
Yeah, well, you know what? We just sat there and chatted about all things history and geekiness, and it was very easy to talk to you because you knew a lot already. So in terms of I would have to do a lot more research. I know certain kitschy things and stuff around the parks, but you have such a deep knowledge about a lot of things that you can just pull out from the resources that you've read and consumed. So it just made it very, very simple and easy. And it didn't feel weird or awkward, which I can be weird and awkward still, but
me too.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel very, very fortunate in the friends that we have and the partnership that you and I have developed to start this show. I mean, it's literally to go from that. And we didn't talk about doing anything with a history podcast for a while. And then now here we are, almost 3 years in?
Yeah, it's been a while now. But yeah, no, it was, I think from the beginning, it was just really easy for you and I to chat about things. We're just we're both the same kind of level of nerd about this.
The one thing I noticed about the wrought iron gating in Ratatouille is it's not exactly French noir, but so it's, but it'll do.
Exactly. But
Right.
no, I agree, concur with all the things. I'm very grateful for the group of friends that we have and our community here at large, and extremely grateful for this show in particular. Has been really, really fun journey to be on. So thank you for hanging out with me and doing that.
It forces all of us to look at the places that we know and love and not look at them at face value or entertainment value alone. It allows us to appreciate and celebrate those that created these fantastic experiences and storylines, and for us to learn more so that we can share with others our passion. And it's always fun to geek out about something when you're in a queue just waiting around. So
sure is. You need something to look at, so you might as well. All right. On that note, thank you everybody for being with us this week. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the next episode of Distory.
I can't wait.
See you soon, Kirk.
Oh, God. See you guys.
Bye, everybody.